Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be talking about Lunar Classic, taking a look at what's been going on most recently and what we think is going to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Now if you have not yet joined us in Discord, check out the link in the description below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. And if you are looking for a little bit more from the crypto space, in the description below you'll find things like our Patreon services, where we do offer a lot more for our Patreon members via the Discord server. So check those out if they are of interest to you. Okay, let's make a start. Let's keep this nice and brief. There's a fair few things to talk about and a few things I think are going to happen here. Here we have Lunar Classic paired up with Binance USD on the 1 hour chart, and Binance is our data source here. Okay, now as you can see, I've kind of removed a lot from the chart and I've just left two dashed lines on here, at least what you can see at the moment. We obviously have hit the first milestone. That was the 27428, the top dashed line over here, right? So we hit this one, and we are still looking to come down towards the 24041. Okay, but I'm going to break this down into kind of what I think is going on. Let's first of all, we want to talk about this little move here. We're going to start at the granular level, then we're going to start building it up, and then we'll start talking about where these things are going. Okay, so on our small scale right here, we can see that we potentially have this little move to go to the upside, right? Now the minimum expectation will be a double top, and I'll tag that up in a second. I'm just going to move this up to the kind of the typical expectations, which will put us at 27807. Okay, that would be right on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little label, and I'll throw that right on here at basically 807 at the end there. Okay, then I'll just remove this fib. Now our typical kind of, or say typical, that's our typical move there, 27807. However, the minimum expectation will be here at 27277. And the reason for that is it would be a double top. That would be the minimum expectation if this wave count is correct. Okay, so let me just put this one in here. And it was 277, so we'll just pop that there. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the dash line. We don't want to get things too crazy. So you can see this little micro movement just here. We kind of have this expectation that the price might just move up a tad more. Now, from our stochastic RSI, we don't have a lot of momentum in this. But if we take a look at the 8 hour, there's a little bit of growth in that. The daily has some growth in it, but the 4 hourly is overbought. But it's not perfectly overbought. I still think there is that chance that we can, of course, just take this up a little bit higher before we do what is next, which is basically a move to the downside. Okay, so I'm looking at that. I still think it's possible, but you know, it's going to be somewhere in this kind of range, in my opinion. Now, with that being said, it's possible that maybe that's incorrect and we're just going to be moving down. Okay, the next kind of level of expectations are this one. So it's basically A here. All of this move would be our B move. Then it would come down into a C wave. Okay, and as we kind of layer this in, we'd start to think about this structure here. And if we do go for that typical 1-to-1, then we'll put this right up here at the 807 level, just there. And you can see that down here we would have our little C wave low point coming in at 24494. Okay, so I'll go ahead and grab myself a little label and I'll just mark that up as well. Okay, and 94. Okay, we'll just leave that there, and then we'll go ahead and remove it. So basically at the moment it looks like we have to have this little move upwards, and then we'll move to the downside afterwards. Okay, now all of that gets us very, very close to this 24041, but not exactly where we wanted it to be. Now if we start to zoom back out of this, we can start to see, okay, well, what actually was going on in here? Well, we had this little kind of three-wave structure here. We had a little tiny three-wave structure moving to the upside just in here, nothing major. It's also possible that there's something bigger in that we just can't see yet. Okay, so we keep that as a kind of a wild card scenario, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let me just remove those. It would look like this. Okay, so we basically go up, we've come down, and then we come up again. Okay, and therefore we can smash this one out of the water. So that's a scenario that we can also think about, but it's a bit of a wild card. Now, essentially, if we break this down, it would look something like this, and we kind of come up into this high point here, and then we break down into this one. So you can see how this ABC structure has an ABC structure inside it. The B wave is looking to track for an ABC structure, and we're looking to come down in three waves into that C wave. So it's not a straight drop, nothing moves in straight lines, and you kind of see all these choppy moves. Okay, so that's kind of where we are with that. Okay, now what we'll then do is say, okay, well, actually, what else is going on there? You kind of got this structure, and you can see that all of that is a three-wave structure is inside this C wave here, and inside that C wave, you've got three and so forth, right? So we're starting to build this picture up. We can start to see that actually, yeah, sure, we've really drilled down, we've broken that down to the lower level, and we're getting a lot of confirmation that actually down here seems to be the most logical area. This is why this area is marked out at 24041. So a downward move is likely, although the move to the upsides are very, very minor. So we know that there's more potential for downward momentum shifts than upward momentum shifts. That being said, if we start to zoom back out again, all of this would actually look like just a B wave, okay? And that's an A wave coming up here. This would be our B wave coming down, and then we'd have this C wave going up. So again, this looks like we actually are just in this kind of short-term movement to the downside, that it will be quite severe because price movements are reasonable. If we take the current price down to this level here, we're talking about 10%. So it's a 10% move to the downside. But then once done, I think we're going to have a just equally as complex structure moving upwards for maybe a 96% move on Lunar Classic. But again, that would be short-lived, because we would look at this and think, okay, well, we've got three waves coming down, we've got three waves going up. Then, the next kind of thing to think about would be that, potentially it's another three waves to the downside, okay? That being said, at some point, we're going to get a trend, okay? And the trend will start to break to the upside. Now, the thing with all of these is that they're corrective-based structures, okay? And corrective-based structures are not trends, okay? Now, you might be trending below a 200 EMA, for example. And I think that's what I've got in here. Let me just check my source code. Nope, that's not quite what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and change that into a 200 EMA as yellow, and save that in there for a second. Just move that. Okay, and what I'll do is, so the yellow line here, I don't know if I can actually come into the settings on this one. Just don't plot the white, and we'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can see, right? So a lot of people will be looking at a 200 moving average and saying if we're below the 200 moving average, we're in a trend. And if you are below a downward trend, right? It's basically supposed to give you the direction of a trend. Now, Elliott wave theory looks differently, okay? So it doesn't really care too much about the averages. Instead, it says 5-wave structures are trends, 3-wave structures are not. They are just continuation patterns or counter to the trend, and then the trend will continue. So all of this would just be counter to a potential trend. But with that being said, we haven't really got a good, strong trend the second that we start to zoom back out. But as you can see, we started nesting all these things down, right? And we start thinking about these corrective structures. Well, then you would have this big one over here, right? 3 waves coming up. We'd have these kind of 3 larger waves coming down. And then, of course, what happens next is going to be one hell of a fantastic run to the upside. So essentially, when we start thinking about how the structure of Lunar Classic has formed out, we have some really interesting kind of things to be thinking about. Yes, there's some minor movements, and people get really kind of fixated on the kind of the here and the now and the what's going on, and they don't zoom out far enough to really take it and appreciate the things that have been going on. Now, essentially, I've done kind of covered a lot in there, right? We've kind of started right at the small level. We can see that there's a small push to the upside potentially on the horizon. There's a move to the downside. Then there's a move to the upside, and then there's potentially another move to the downside. These are pretty reasonably large swings, right? Slightly move up, drop down by 10 or so percent, then rally up by about 100%, then probably drop down 150%, and then you'll start to actually maybe go into the next really good run, which could be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000% or so. And so there's definitely something in this. But I said it before, and I'll say it again. I think the Lunar Classic is going to basically be the kind of, I guess, meme coin of choice, right, for the next cycle. So it's one of those, right? I think Shiba Inu investors will move over to Lunar Classic. I think Doge investors will move over to Lunar Classic. It's basically, I think Lunar Classic is going to be what is shielded on the TikTok from all those kind of 17-year-old kids who tell you to invest $100 and become a multi-millionaire, within 24 hours. It's that kind of thing, I think, that is going to really take and hit the Lunar Classic community. Now, I think that downgrades Lunar Classic to a degree, but I do think that's a realistic expectation, considering A, the price and the circulating supply, and the fact that I think it's going to be shielded by a lot of absolute nonsense. I think it's going to kind of be one of those really good key players in the space during the next cycle, because I think it's going to be picked up by the kind of the wrong people, unfortunately. But nonetheless, I think it will do well because of it. So it's one of those. For now, though, do appreciate some volatility. There's going to be some trading opportunities in here. I can see some moves up, some moves down, some moves up again, and so forth. So there's definitely going to be some pretty good kind of trading activity, I think, on Luna Classic. Just make sure that you're on the right side of these things, though. It can be very, very difficult to kind of get on the right side of it, specifically if you're going to be using leverage and things like that, which obviously is high risk, etc. So I'm going to leave the video there, guys. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done, out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.